The perception is that teenagers just want to be left alone and
hmm
love is giving them room. But what do you believe it actually is? What's loving teenagers well?
I noticed something that was like teenagers were actually most drawn into families where there was accountability and where there was boundaries, and like that is actually how they felt loved. And they might like roll their eyes and be like, oh, my mom, But in the end of the day, they knew they were safe and secure and loved.
Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast with coach, encourager, and strategist Anna McLaughlin. If you're a Christian woman who has big dreams rooted in an even bigger God, but most days those dreams feel completely out of reach, trust me, I get it. As a homeschooling mama of 4, entrepreneur, investor, and all around wearer of many hats, I am right there with you. And yet the Lord invites us to live out our God-given purpose now in the midst of the madness. So let's explore together how we can know our calling and walk in it today with clarity, with courage, with each other. It's time for you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's do this thing.
Welcome to this week's episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. I'm already having the best time talking to Tindell Baldwin. Tindell, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, it's so great to be here.
It's so great. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, we got connected through another podcast that I was on, which was so fun.
Yes.
And I like got in this space, I guess, because I originally was a author for. I wrote a book for teenage girls years and years ago, and now I have 4 kids of my own. So I wrote it when I guess my oldest, who is about to be 13, it came out when she was 6 months old. So it's been out for a minute.
She
Um,
wasn't even born when you wrote it, right?
yeah, I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I know, I had just come out of, my story is I didn't know Jesus all through high school. I came from an incredible Christian family, but I had wanted nothing to do with faith and relationship with God. I really just wanted to be popular. The book is called Popular. So it's really just my story of what it actually looked like to live as a teenager away from God, because I felt like there was this image that was, kind of like given to you as like if you're popular and you're cool, you're going to be happy and everything's going to be great. And that really wasn't my experience. There was a lot of brokenness, a lot of hurt, a lot of addiction. So
Mm.
then I was like, I just want teenagers to know what it's really like. So I was like, I'm just going to write my really honest story. So it's like it is my memoir of kind of coming to faith, and then what it looked like to start following Jesus in college, which is not the easiest time to start following Jesus.
Accurate.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
accurate. Well,
yeah.
and this is really where we're leaning in today. And it's something that I don't think I've had a guest talk about this, which is like, as we raise children, what, like digging in a little bit to what does it look like to love these teens? And when you and I were talking initially, you said something really interesting. You're like, and help me catch it. It was basically like, I feel like the perception is that teenagers just want to be left alone and love
hmm
is giving them room. But what do you believe it actually is? What's loving teenagers well?
Yeah, well, and I should say too, like I was a so after I put the book out there where it was published, I became a high school leader for small groups, and I just finished my 12th year of leading high school small groups.
Wow.
Because I was like, I wanted to actually be around teenagers. Like it was great to write a book for them, but I like should wanted to like be involved in their life and help them and guide them and mentor them if I could. So, and I noticed something that was like teenagers were actually most drawn into families where there was accountability and where there was boundaries, and like that is actually how they felt loved. And they might like roll their eyes and be like, oh, my mom, but in the end of the day, they knew they were safe and secure and loved. And so, and I actually sat with girls who had the opposite. Like their parents were kind of like, do whatever you want, have fun, and they did not feel loved. They very much felt abandoned a little bit to the world, and having to figure out like this huge part of life without the guidance of an adult who had been through it before.
Mm. And like, how could you tell? What would they say to you where you could, like, would they actually say, I feel abandoned, or was it just the way they talked?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking of one girl specifically, and I sat with her when I was at a summer camp, and I was there with it was she wasn't in my small group, but the youth pastor had called me and was like, hey, so basically she wanted to leave the life she was living, which was very similar to my past. And she was like,
Mhm.
can you just help talk her through what it might look like to follow Jesus and to move away from kind of all the things she's doing, drugs, alcohol, sleeping around. And I just sat with her and I was like, this is going to take you probably walking away from lots of things. What's your support system and is like? And she's like, oh, my parents don't care what I do. She was like, I
Mm.
wish they cared what I did. I wish they wouldn't. So it was just like very eye-opening because I never had that. I had parents who cared deeply. I had parents who
Mhm.
were constantly involved and who I felt like, gosh, if you would just leave me alone, I could like live my best life.
Mhm.
Um, but I had friends who told me, like, looked at me like they were jealous of my parents. They were like,
Yeah.
your parents really care about you.
Mhm.
Um, so
And
yeah,
they came to your house, right? Like, isn't
oh
that
yeah.
they always wanted to be over, which I thought was fascinating in your book because I read the book, I loved it, and really found it so fascinating that the quote unquote cool kids that were partying and living the wild life wanted to be in this stable home. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say we didn't party at my house,
Sure.
but when you know, but when everybody wanted somewhere to go hang out, everybody loved. And my mom was actually like, we did a like rec league soccer, and we needed a coach, and all my friends were like, "Oh, Tyndall, your mom." So my mom was the coach of the Hellions. That was our team name, the Hellions. Um,
Bless your mom.
I it was it was the most like it could have been an SNL skit. It was hysterical. My mom had never played soccer. She's reading on the sidelines, soccer for dummies. We had one girl that would take a smoke break. Like it was comical, but they were like, yeah, I mean they loved my parents because my parents loved them. My parents unconditionally loved. And that's engaged. I mean um that draws you in. Like you want more of that.
Wow. So here's I'm thinking as the parent of just like you, like my oldest is 13, right? So we're
Mhm.
just entering in and being a homeschool family, there's a greater degree of shelteredness. My kids
Mhm.
are like still play make believe and dress up and dolls, and there's this innocence that's kind of baked in. But I think about, you know, I I think about raising these kids, and it's like I want to be the place where they want to hang out, but
Mhm.
then I feel that like I mean, I just think of your parents, I'm like, I would be so tempted to be like, not those girls though.
Yeah.
Right? So what impact do you feel like it
Yeah.
had for you for your house to kind of be an open house, even
Mm.
recognizing that you're navigating this kind of wild ride in your teen years?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think my parents saw it as ministry. It was their way of loving and showing my family is really cool. We're all still really close. I have three brothers. We all live within 20 minutes of each other. We were all together on Saturday night. I mean, like we really do all love each other and get along really well and have always had a cool bond. And a lot of people have never seen that. Like a lot of people have not been around families where like parents love each other and the kids all love each other. And I mean, they did a great job of using it kind of as like a ministry of like, hey, we're gonna love you. We got food here. You're welcome. They had a pool in their backyard and we would always go and swim. And I mean, they just did. They used it as ministry. And even now, I mean, it's cool because I think even though my oldest is 13, we still do. I still feel like our family is a safe place for her. And she's not the typical, in fact, all of her friends jokingly call her pure child because she's just very different than
Yeah.
most 13-year-olds. But it was funny. We were talking about dressing up for Halloween, and she was like, I'm not going to dress up for school. She was like, I just don't think I'm really into what most 13-year-olds are into. And I was like, that's fine. You don't dress up. And I said, well, what about like walking our neighborhood? Are you going to feel okay? She was like, well, I'm with you guys. I feel fine as long as I'm with you guys.
Aw.
And I was just like, that's what family's supposed to be. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
like the safe place where you can be yourself. And my parents did a great job of showing my friends specifically. And my brother's friends were all the same. I mean, my brothers were very walked the Christian faith all through high school and stuff, but all their friends were always over too. I mean, my parents just did a great job of using our house and it's something I aim to do with my kids, but using our house as like, hey, open door policy.
Mhm.
I don't think we ever locked the door. I don't actually know if I had a key to my house growing up.
You didn't need it. It's
I
just
didn't mean
always
it.
open.
Somebody was always open, or somebody was always there.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so when we look, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, what questions do I even ask? Because I'm like, I think leading into these years of the teenage, I'm like, I just want it all. I want them to be okay. I just want
Mm,
them to be okay. And what I found really challenging, so I want to like lean into like when you were a teen a little bit, because I think I wrote this story of if I'm present and engaged and deeply loving and available and give them space, then they'll be quote unquote okay. They'll be
mhm.
okay. They'll make wise decisions, and I won't have to be like afraid that they're not coming home at night.
Yeah.
Your story is one of the first I heard that was different, where
Yeah.
you honored your parents so much and so beautifully. And I was like looking for it. I'm like, surely there's some lesson that I
Yeah.
can then plug in a formula where it's like, here's what they should have done differently, you know? But you didn't give us that. You left us in the uncomforting or uncomfortability of they did a great job.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
made my choices. And those were costly choices that they would have done anything to see me not have to walk through.
Yeah.
So talk to me as a parent now, and of course with a close relationship with your family. Like, what did they kind of what did they have to say about that time frame? And what do you like, how do you view your parenting in light of how they raised you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think there's a formula. I wish there was,
I
because like
know. There never
I
is.
no, there's not. And it stinks because yeah, like we both have four kids, and I mean, I got two boys and two girls, and I'm like, I wouldn't want my boys or my girls to go through my story.
Yes.
But at the same time, like I do want my kids to have a faith that's their own, and a
Yes.
faith that withstands the test of college, withstands the test of the real world. And so to me, I want to walk with them through the hard parts of life, not necessarily prevent them, but
Hmm.
like I want to be the safe place they can come and like process it out loud, because like we aren't the world is not getting better. Like when I send my kids out, like they're not going to experience what they hopefully will experience in our home. So I think being okay, and that I'm okay that God uses whatever he needs to draw them to him. that
Mm.
that that's my prayer. God, whatever it takes for them to be 100% sold out living for you, I'm okay with that. And I think for me personally, I don't know that that could have come without the story I lived. I think yeah, I think I just wasn't, which is, hard to process. But
Right.
also, one of my favorite verses in Genesis is like, you intended this for evil, but God is using it for the good, the saving of many lives. And I think God can always bring redemption no matter what our story is. Um, and something my mom and I have talked about that I do try to do differently. My mom has a story that's pretty similar to mine, but she hadn't done a lot of processing and healing from it. And so there were certain things that she had a hard time talking to me about.
Mhm.
And I have done, and I mean, writing a book about your story will force you to go through lots of like healing and processing and
Mhm.
counseling. And now I aim to be very open with my kids as they walk through things, as opposed to, if you haven't healed from it, shame will keep you silent.
Mm. Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that reminds me, Brene Brown has something that she says that's effectively, we can't give our children what we have not first received ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, like, if there's an area of shame, there's an area of healing, there's an area of judgment, right? Is that
Mhm.
shame is self-judgment? Then we can't offer that to our children
Mm.
because it's not there. It's not there. And
No.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's so good. So, in other words, what it sounds like you're saying is I'm going to give them room to have the story that they need to have so they'll have the walk that's worth having with the Lord.
Yeah, which is easy to say from like where I sit right now, because like
Yeah.
my almost 13-year-old is like totally sold out for the Lord. Yeah, I mean, so it's easy to say because her story seems solid right now. My 11-year-old son though, like so my girls have both been baptized and very open and firm about their faith. My 11-year-old's very like interested in the world. He's like the sports kid. He really wants to be defined by his performance. So that's where my fear comes in. I'm like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Defining
Yeah.
yourself by how well you perform won't work. But that is where I like my faith gets tested with what I say. Cause it's easy to say like,
Mhm.
oh God, I trust you with my kids until you see your kid kind of one foot in and out of, well, how well did I play basketball? It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, that doesn't matter. But
Yeah. Well, and I think about all the things I've said to my children where it's just like I can see it's not it's like they hear me, but it's kind of an eye roll hear me of like, yeah, mom, I know. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, and then there's a point where it becomes real. And
Mhm.
I just when I was 10, because I was raised in a non-Christian home, so my walk was
Mm.
my own all through. And so I got a Bible at 10 and I was reading it by myself and I accepted the Lord at 11 and then it was just like mine to figure out. And I look at my kids, I'm like, huh, like I was finding Bible studies to go to at 13 and I was, listening to sermons and going and looking for the
It's
youth groups and
incredible.
yeah, right. And
It's incredible.
like then there were all the terrible decisions that I made while still saying I'm sold out for
Right.
Jesus, but let me go find this boy over here because he's
Yeah.
super cute. But he's Christian super cute. So
Yeah.
therefore it's totally
That's
fine.
okay.
It's totally fine. All the terrible choices that we're going to make are somehow sanctified because
Yeah.
we're both Christians, leading each other deeply astray.
Deeply astray. That's amazing. Yeah, I had a few of those too.
Uh-huh, right?
Yeah.
And but so I look at my children and I'm like, I have because I'm a first generation Christian. My dad came to the Lord before he passed, but it wasn't really part of our, part of our culture. We were in the Midwest. It's not part of the, social culture the way
Mm,
it is here in the South. And so I look at my kids, I'm like, I have no idea how to give you any of this.
mm.
And I think, and what you're saying that I think is so beautiful is like, we really can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we can live it, right?
Yeah.
Like I know you like just talking to you that I know you are. Like we live it and that is what's appealing because they are going to look out into the world and it doesn't work. At
Yeah.
some point like the money, the identity, searching for all of that and outside of Jesus doesn't work outside of faith. And so like it might take them longer, but
Mhm.
at some point you do look around and go like, okay, wait, my mom was happy, in X, Y, and Z. And so I don't know. I remember my dad saying, people always ask my parents, like, how are you not so afraid? Because I mean, my story got very, very dark, especially by the end of high school. Like suicidal addiction. I mean, just so dark. I mean, I do think like the devil wanted to take me out.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I'm not afraid, just like I'm not afraid that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. He's like, God has her. And I mean, they really did believe that, claim that, pray for that, and then live it unwaveringly, which
Yeah.
is so impressive. And I have not had to do that. Yeah.
Gosh, that's incredible. Could you see that at the time? Like as you or even just looking back now, can you see how they walked out that confidence? Like is that why they were able to just kind of love you and your friends just where they were because they just had that confidence?
Yes, I think especially I think I see it more as a parent myself because I'm sure you have experienced this. Like when I feel afraid, my tendency is to grasp for control.
Mm-hmm.
So like if
Yeah.
I'm afraid, I'm going to just grasp at straws to, control the situation, control the outcome, whatever. I never felt like my parents were doing that. They were never grasping at control over me because that was an illusion. They weren't going to get control of a 16-year-old,
Yeah.
but they could control where their faith was, their trust was, so yeah, I think I see it now as a parent more than I probably experienced it as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Hey friend, are you looking for a peaceful getaway where you can just breathe? A backdrop to your next hilarious girls' weekend? Or the destination for that crazy family trip? If so, our family would be honored to host you at our sweet retreat, Just Like Paradise. Located a block from the beach in beautiful family and dog friendly Oak Island, Our home is perfect for families, group retreats, or even a solo or couples getaway. You know you need it. After years of praying over this home and asking others to do the same, peace is just baked into the walls. From the Three Seasons back porch to the fire pit, from the hot tub to the kids' room fully stocked with all the games, we've thought of everything to give you just the getaway you've been looking for. Simply send me a text at 704-810-1181 to skip the fees and enjoy an additional 10% discount on your next stay. Just mention the podcast. I've got you covered. We can't wait to host you at Just Like Paradise. And then talk to me too, because I hear that piece. And then I also, having read your book, saw that there were boundaries nonetheless, and there were
Oh, yeah.
consequences. So what was there a dance between the two, or do the two live in concert together?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a great job of my consequences never being anything relational with them. So it wasn't like they were mad at me or like I was discluded from like the family fun. It was just kind of like, oh, wow, you were drinking and driving. Please give me your keys. Like, that stinks. You're not allowed to drive. So it was like just kind of a lot of natural consequences. I mean, also like a ton of grounding. I was grounded, I think 6 months total, like my freshman year of high
Mhm.
school. But they had to kind of adjust to what would work. And so a lot of it was like taking my car or I mean, this is kind of counterintuitive, but like my dad took me to like father-daughter camp, where he would take me on dates. He would spend extra time with me, which I mean, when my kids are like in a bad mental or emotional state, the last thing I want to do is like reach out and be like, let's go get
Uh-huh.
breakfast together. I'm
Yep.
like, you come find me when that attitude's better.
Yep, that's very familiar. Yeah, that does remind me though, I've heard somebody talk about a principle called tomato staking of just like, I'm gonna draw you close. And
Mm,
it's a little bit different because it's more like for little kids, I'll give you the freedom to be apart from me when I know that you can handle it. And
mm.
so I've actually used, this is gonna sound so terrible, but we'll just go for it. I've literally tied the dog leash around like my ankle and theirs when my kids were tiny, tiny, where it's like, I'm so sorry. You seem to be drawing on walls and hitting siblings and doing all kinds of things. So you're just gonna stay real close to mom.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm
Yeah,
like, would my 6-year-old know how to untie it? Is what I'm thinking. I'm
I
like,
know,
he probably
right?
could.
Probably so. It's been a little while since I used it. I think it was more effective at like 3 or 4, and my oldest is 7 now. But I'm still like, huh, that's a not the worst idea. But I love that of just it, the I don't know if this changes over time, but my 13-year-old, at least, when she's being extra prickly, I'll come up and at my finest, which is not by any means all the time. I'll come up and like give her a kiss. Like she was really mad today because I was telling you this before, Tindell, before we started recording, because I gave her comments on her paper that she'd written. And how dare I? Because
Yeah.
like nothing's ever good enough for me and blah blah blah. Of course, I'm terrible. And
Oh yeah.
so, I went over and gave her a kiss. I'm like, "You're my favorite person. Like, you're just the best. I love you so much," while she's furious at me, right? And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Does it make any sense? I don't know, but we're gonna do it. So, and I love your story because it's like that's what your parents did.
Yeah, well, you have to be sturdy. Like
Yeah.
that's what our counselor told. That's just so funny. This is what our counselor told my husband when I was emotional. He was like, "You just need to be sturdy for her. She
I
doesn't need you
love
to
that.
fix it." But I have thought about that so often, especially with teenagers, especially because their emotions. My sister-in-law gave me the most beautiful analogy when my daughter went into 6th grade because I'd drop her off at school and just pray, pray, pray all the way out of the parking lot. Like, God, please let her be like, let everybody be nice. Let it, just like all those desperate prayers of like, don't let anyone make fun of her, let her have friends, don't let her sit alone at lunch, like all the
Gosh.
things. And then I would like text my sister-in-law who has kids, a little ahead of me. Her oldest is in high school now. And I'd be like, she got in the car and she was all upset because she didn't get art with her friend and she's like, listen, your job is to not get on the roller coaster with her
Ah.
on the roller coaster. You just stand there, you watch her do all the loops. Sometimes she's going to get off, she'll throw up on you, she'll get back on. She was like, but under no circumstances do you ever get on the roller coaster with her. And so I love that analogy because that is middle school, teenage years. Like they are on a roller coaster emotionally, physically, like in every regard. And like Your job is to stand there and be the like safe place they can get off, get some water, vomit on you occasionally, and then get on back on that ride. And you're like, I'm
Mhm.
here for you. I'm here
Yeah.
for you. I'm not getting with you, but I'm here for you.
Oh man. Yep, that's it. Because I think about the temptation to be like mad with them or
Yeah.
upset with them or hurt with them. And then, you get a little bit more of the story. And I see this especially with the sibling thing, right? Where it's like, Asher hit me. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, because you pulled his hair. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just there's so much more going on that we can't see. And I
Oh
love that
yeah.
idea of just sturdy. Don't get on the ride with them.
Yes.
Just hold the
Yes.
space.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's easier for me with my older kids. My
Yeah.
my 6-year-old, I mean, he can pull me down so quickly
Yeah.
because it's like just nonsense. With the middle school and high school, I mean, with the older, you're like, this is hard. It's easy to like see it and be like, I know this is hard. I remember this being hard. I remember these feelings, but with the littler kids, that's where I'm just kind of like, I don't care that you wanted ice cream after dinner. Like, I don't have the same empathy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I almost feel like I would be more tempted though to get on the ride when I do have empathy. I don't know. Can you
Mm,
speak to that at all? Because when I see her hurting, I'm like, oh, I know. I'm so
yeah,
sorry. And I want to rescue her instead of
yes.
just because I think this dovetails so beautifully with what you talked about with our faith, where it's like it, for me, there was a light bulb moment when my kids were little where I was like, I just have to remember that this is the best thing out there. Like
Mhm,
nothing beats the gospel. It's
mhm,
so captivating. It holds true. It can, Francis Schaeffer, who founded L'Abri Fellowship, he's a theologian from like the 50s to 70s. He said that if Christianity is true, and these were the two premises of L'Abri, which is a place where literally people just go and dig into their faith or maybe come
mm,
without a faith at all and just wrestle through the thing in community. He said if Christianity is which is true, it impacts every area of life and it can withstand all scrutiny.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
that's what I hear you saying is like we have to hold the space to just give them room to feel all the things and then just go, it all comes back to Jesus. Like
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
that's everything. And maybe they'll come to know it in our home and maybe they won't. But
Mm,
like for us to know it, for your parents
yeah,
to have that unshakable faith, I think that's so powerful.
yeah. And it gives their pain purpose. Like we all have pain in life. Like you don't get out of that. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what your story is. Like there
Yeah.
is no story without pain. And to me, I'm like, I want to teach my kids to weather the storm with faith as opposed to weathering the storm with coping, right? Like coping
Oh.
in whatever it might be. I'm going to go veg out on Netflix or I'm going to, drink or what, like, so our faith gives us a purpose in the pain. God's teaching you something. You're learning something. I will help walk you through it. I have an easier time not rescuing them. I think just because I'm like, I want to walk with you. I would much rather walk with you now than you be in your 20s and me be like, "Oh man, you're about to marry this guy who I don't think is a good fit for you." You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
I'd rather like walk her through what does it look like to date or I don't know, he rejected me. Or just like the kind of low stakes experiences versus the really high stakes when they're older.
Okay, so talk to me about that. So you'd rather walk with them through the low stakes. And so are you saying basically give them room to make their mistakes when it's little so that it becomes their own, or what is that? Sharpen it for me a little bit.
Yeah, I think more not deciding for them. Like
Mm.
not deciding like I mean, I'll give you an example and I'll zoom out so I don't ruin anybody's confidence or my daughter's confidence in me, but she came to me recently and she found out a friend was doing something she did not agree with. And she was like, "Mom, what do I do? How do I handle this? I don't agree with this. It goes against what I believe." And I said, "Well, what do you think you should do?" And like we sat in my bed for an hour and a half and she was like crying. She was so upset because this was like a very close friend. And I said, and she was like, why don't we got to dialogue and talk through what does it look like to pick friends that make you better? What does it look like when someone does something you don't agree with? What does it look like to love someone in the midst of sin? what does it look like to hold this person's confidence? Because she's like, don't tell anyone. And then it was like, and then I got to be like, okay, here's the way, here's the times you have to tell someone, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, it was just all these things that I was like, I'd rather her come to me and us talk through all of that right now at going on 13 than her be 25 and have kind of like not ever known how to handle it. Does that make sense? You
Mm.
know?
Oh, it so does. And I remember, so when my kids were little, it was when all the like Duke rape trial stuff was going on. And I
Hmm.
remember, and it was before it had all gotten fleshed out, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, how do I make sure my boys aren't like rapists?" It's like another
Right.
thing
Oh
to be
yeah.
afraid of, because what else am I going to be
Gosh,
afraid of
so
when they're
true.
3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Drowning.
noticed, right? And then I noticed my conversation with my children, and it was like, that's not your body, that's not your body,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my gosh, like the kindness of the Lord that we get decades to
Hmm.
have these conversations that ultimately boil down to principles that they'll be facing in adulthood. you
Yes.
know
Yes.
like, how can we help them understand these ideas that are really rooted in the Word of God, and
Yeah.
in the sense of identity and personhood and respect and love and boundaries and all of that. It's like it starts at 1 or 2. And
Yeah.
so I love what you said of like, we're gonna dig into it now,
Hmm.
and not just look at this and go, oh, she's a kid, she'll figure it out. But it's like, no, this is the
Right.
moment. Like,
Yeah.
these are the conversations that then build on each other, so that, okay, so I'm just thinking through the principles that you've talked about so far. Like, so we really take our kids as they are and love them there all the way through. Love their
Yeah.
people, love their circle, but also hold up this standard
Yeah.
of, you are blood bought. And
Hmm.
our family faith plays out as, we bend towards more covenant, like Presbyterian. So it's like,
Hmm.
my husband and I entered into a covenant with the Lord when we baptized them as babies. And
Hmm.
so our pastor talked about how that was almost like, it was almost like putting his hand on those kids, like, these are
Yeah.
ours and we're yours, and then they will become your own, but right now they're kind of
Hmm.
like part of the family. Um, but just that your parents kind of said, she's his, like,
Hmm.
fully his, fully covered, fully protected, and while you're weathering some wild stuff. I mean, you had quite a story, and you unpack that a bit in your book. But like, okay, well, I don't want to get lost. I want to talk about the principles. Okay, all right, because I'm like, we could go so many places. Um, Really bringing the principles, biblical principles, into daily life with our
Yeah.
kids, and then helping them, what is it, like, build their own faith
Yeah.
and worldview? Is that kind of
Yeah.
what you're saying? Ugh,
Yeah. And then I think too, like, I don't buy the lie that like your influence runs out at when they become teenagers.
that's
Like,
what it is. I was like, we
yeah.
had a specific thing that we were talking about. This
I
is
know, we're like,
it.
this is what we're gonna talk
There it
about.
is. There it is.
But
There's the
we danced
topic.
around it. We
We
danced
got
around
it.
it for a while. Well, I think that is, I think Satan is succeeding with that lie because I think parents so often wash their hands a little bit of kids and not, I think because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do and you see your kids push you away
Hmm.
um so often and you think then I must be done. They must not need me. And that is a lie. They need you. They need you to walk with them and like fight for that relationship. Fight for like there is no greater influence you'll have. I mean, this is actually steady proven. There is no greater influence than a parent to a child. And I mean, like you
Mm.
think about that. How does everyone start their story? Like I think about this all the time. Every single person starts their story with I was born in a family that and like
Yes.
that is the starting point. And that is and the first 18 years are foundational in so many huge ways. And to believe that our kids don't need us, once they hit 13, 14, 15, or get a cell phone or whatever you think that line is, I think don't buy it. They need you so much and they won't admit it. Not I mean,
Yeah.
like some will. Like my daughter has no problem like being like she's always like, "Mom, why aren't you allowed to come have lunch with me in middle school?" I'm like, "Because most middle school girls would die if their mother showed up." but you are weird. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
But like they just don't buy into that. Like you stay the course, stay influential, stay like keep family time a priority. Keep going on dates with them. Keep like leaning into every little moment you can with them. Because the young years are so physically exhausting. And I think we're all just trying to make it through, those little years when you're exhausted and you haven't gotten a full
Mhm.
night's sleep and Lord knows how long.
Yeah.
But then they get to middle school or later elementary, middle school, and we're kind of like, okay, well, now what do we do? Now is your emotional investment.
Mhm.
Now is when you step in and you are a physical presence and an emotional safe place for them.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sitting here and I'm just still catching that line. We all start our story with, I was born into a family that. And
Yeah.
so I want to zoom out and friend, I want to talk to you and I want you to just take a second, like pause the podcast and just think about how do you want your children to answer that sentence? I was born into a family that. Okay. And like take a minute and sit there all the way through. This informs every choice you make. What are they going to say? What do you want them to say? We had dinner together every night, even though I hated it. My parents would ask me about my day and sit and listen for the answer. Cell phones got put away as soon as we came in from school, and we were fully present with each other. My siblings would not, or my parents would not let me wrap up an evening with with my siblings without forgiveness if there was a problem. Like, what is it? What's the thing that you want your children to remember? This
In your
culture.
marriage too.
Yes, in your
I think
marriage.
we
Talk about that. Talk about
I
that.
well,
Let's go there.
I only say that because like again, like so many years in high school ministry and how our church does baptism is like you record your story and you play the story and then you get baptized. So like the I just remember sitting in like we call them baptism bash that we did for high school, and we baptized like 5 or 6 kids in a night. And so there's their story after story after story. And I think of the 5 or the 6 kids, there was only one kid who said like my parents were still married.
Oh,
And not only that, the divorce was always a fork in the road.
yeah.
And I mean, and I have friends who have gone through divorce, so I'm not trying to say like that ruins the kid's story. I just do think it is so easy when you're parenting to say my marriage will wait or
Yeah.
so and that is something I am so grateful for. My parents were very intentional about their marriage. And I am forever grateful because it gave me a model of being intentional for my marriage. And thank the Lord, my husband and I still really, really like each other.
Yes. Isn't that it? We don't just love each other, we like each other.
I know. Yes. Love is like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really
Exa
like each other.
and so what have you seen? What's the impact of that when you say it's a fork in the road? What's the result when kids are walking through that? So and if that's part of to you who's listening, if that's part of your story, don't let this be like a death sentence, like, well, now my kids are going to
No,
whatever.
yeah.
It's more like this is where we lean in.
Yeah. Jefferson Bethke talks about it really well in his book, Take Your Family Back or Take Back Your Family. I'm blanking on how he says it, but how the title is. But he talks about how to ignore that it's a fork will do more damage than acknowledging the fork in the road. So
Yeah.
like if you're saying if divorce is a part of your story, acknowledge that that is a huge fork in the road for your children and then get the proper counseling and care you need for them
Mhm.
and for you. And I
Yep.
think and then if that's not your story, if you are still married, making your marriage something your kids remember. Like I mean, I read this recently, like your daughter learns how a man should treat her by like if your husband listens, like if he puts his phone down when you talk, if he
Yeah.
like, and so I think we know that intuitively about our kids. Like we know like
Mhm.
my daughter will know what boys should treat her like because of how my husband treats her, but more importantly, she'll know by how he treats me. Like, oh, he still holds her hand. Oh, he opens the car door. Oh, like
Mhm.
all those things. And so just prioritize. I think it's just prioritizing it. Not saying we'll get back to it when they all leave or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, and what an unfortunate like walk, right? Because man, do we ever need each other when we're walking through
Oh
those
my
teen
gosh.
years? Yeah.
Oh my
Just,
gosh, yes. So many times I feel like we close the door and I'll be like, okay, so now can I tell you what I really think of what happened at dinner?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like, let's just take a minute and let's talk
Yeah.
through all of this.
Yeah. Or, the times where you're like, hey, your son needs you to come parent him. They're never mine when they're like that. I'm
Yeah.
always
Oh
like, I
yeah.
need
No.
you to come parent your son. I'm gonna go lock myself in our room till I get my head on straight.
I know. We call it tapping out. I'm gonna tap
Yes.
out. Your turn. Your turn.
Yes. Yes. Like passing of the baton.
Uh-huh. Yep. I literally so we're having this conversation at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and my husband comes home midday, and literally he's like, "How'd the day go?" And all I had time to say was like, "It was a day,"
It was
like, in other words, good luck. And
yeah.
he's on his way, as we're talking, to find out what happened and have all the conversations. I'm just like, I did what I could do,
Yeah.
for the first half, and now, so yeah, we need each other, and especially when dealing with really hard moments with our children, which one way or another they're going to have. And I love that you said
Yeah.
that, Tyndall, of like they're going to have a story. They're going to have
Hmm.
something, whether it's, just like the choices that they make or the impact of others' choices or just life, like
Yeah.
just like grandparents don't live forever, and people move, and seasons change and friends make different choices, and it's just we need that strong foundation.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Amen. Yeah. And knowing that like you have a pivotal role to play. Like I think of that like, I only work very part-time. And sometimes it's hard not feeling like, oh, I don't have anything I'm adding to the world. And I'm like, that is a lie. Like I am
Yes,
adding a whole lot to my kids' life. And I have to believe that like my role is irreplaceable and they and what I'm doing is valuable.
that's
And
right.
that goes for working or non-working, but for me specifically, I've had to remind myself like that this I am in a season where they need me.
That's right. Well, and if we look at investing in kingdom things, what's the only thing that lasts forever? It's the souls of the people that
Hmm.
we encounter. Like they're eternal, guaranteed. And
Yeah.
so what do we do with them? And not only that, but although it's just even if it's just the heads that are in our own home, our spouse and our children, they go on and have families of their own and ministries of their own and impacts of their own. And so to get to impact that is no small thing.
Yeah. Well, and a friend of mine said recently in Bible study, she's like, they are our closest neighbor. Jesus is like,
Ah,
love your neighbors. Like, who's your closest neighbor? The people
yeah.
in your house
Yeah,
with
that's
you.
right. The next bedroom over. Sometimes
Yeah.
in your bedroom. Can I
Yeah.
sleep here tonight?
Exactly.
Ah, okay. This is so good. So I feel like the number one thing I'm holding from this conversation is just trusting, because like nobody likes to be rejected. And I feel like parenting a
Mhm.
teenager is just constant rejection.
Oh, it is. Yes. 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 100%. Again, I'm not totally there yet, but
Yeah.
especially being really close with all my sister-in-laws who have like we got a junior in high school down to a freshman's in high school. So
Yeah.
I have watched them comically like, be like, I'm the worst. Did you know I'm the worst? And then, but they, they just are standing on the side of that roller coaster, getting
Yes.
vomited on and staying in
That's
their
right.
place.
They're sturdy.
Yes. Yes. They're
Okay.
sturdy.
All right.
Yes.
So we're going to be sturdy. We're going
Mhm.
to be close. We're going to draw them near even when they act like they don't want it and they roll their eyes. And we're going to really lean into the truth that your story exemplifies so beautifully, Tyndall, of that love really matters.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any final word of encouragement for my people?
No, I mean, man, it was just a joy to get to talk with you. And yeah, and if you have a teenager and you feel like you are the last person that they like in the world, I just want to encourage you. That's not the truth. They really do
That's
love
right.
you. They don't always know how to show it.
That's right. That's right. And we're telling them who they are again and again.
Mhm.
So I just think about what you're saying and how it's like this is that love that never lets go, to say no matter what you do, like one of the phrases in
Yeah.
our family is there's nothing you can do to be outside of my love. And like
Yes.
it's just my prickliest kids have heard that a billion times at this point, and they're going to keep hearing it, sometimes because I need to say it, right? Just my
Yeah.
own reminder to
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, probably the last thing I'll add here is unconditional love is the best way you can show your kids the love of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like that is to me, that is the one thing I remember. My parents could have talked all day long at me, but the way that they showed me unconditional love was my first glimpse of Christ.
That's it. Mm. Tindell, thank you so much for all of this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so lastly, we can't finish. I was like, oh, there's something else. Yes. How can my people find you? Because they're going
Yes.
once.
Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram hardly, but I am on Instagram. It's at Tyndall Grace. And then I did the Popular is still on Amazon. It's called Popular Boys, Booze, and Jesus.
And
And
it's
that,
excellent. I couldn't put it down. I had some other guests that were coming on, and I literally like didn't read their books because I was like, I'm
oh,
not done with this one yet.
it's a quick read too. It's funny. My niece is 17 or 16. She's turned 17. She told me recently, she read it a couple years ago and she said, Aunt Tindy, your book's the only read book I ever finished. I was like, I'm so glad.
Oh, I did want to ask you this, Tyndall, though, and so let's just super quick because I know you got kids coming home and we got to scoot. But um, tell me this: would you recommend it to any teen? Is there an age range? Is it only if kids are kind of being like really tempted by the world? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say I would recommend reading it first. I do talk about drugs, alcohol, sex, and suicide. So I would say read it first. You know your kids. Like my daughter, who's in seventh grade, is nowhere near reading it.
Yeah.
But my niece read it, I think, freshman year, and she was ready, and she was not rebelling, but I think just curious. I tell parents too, like if you have a kid that's curious, like if they're like, I want to know what that's like, I want to know what the popularity is like, I want to know, like if they're tempted by curiosity, this is a great way to satisfy curiosity without them ever having to take a step into that world.
Yes.
But
Yes.
again, I do recommend high school. I would say any high schooler would
Mhm.
probably be able to read it, but I would,
Yeah.
if you have questions, I would just say always read it first as a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. It kind of, I know we gotta go. Okay, but it kind of healed something for me too, because I was always like, want to be popular and very
Mm,
self-destructive. And there
mm.
was a part of me that's like, if I'd actually fit in, maybe I would have fared better. But then I read it, and I was like, oh, I would have been so
No,
much worse off.
yeah, yeah, I really is. It is a good reminder that like that world is super tempting and super destructive.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And and Jesus, right? I love the arc of your story. And I love having I met you through the book, and then it's like fast forward 10 or 15 years, and now getting to hear all that you've walked and all that you're doing before the Lord. It's just beautiful to see, just the way that he turns our story to good
Yes,
no matter what, no matter what our story
yes,
is. Yeah,
yes. Only he. Yeah.
only he. Exactly. Tyndall,
Thanks,
thank you so
Anna. Thanks for
much.
having me.
It's been
So much
such a
fun.
joy, such a joy. Thank you again. All right. And to you, friend, listen, hold your people close. Show them love, even when it's messy. It's not your job to fix, it's not your job to heal. Christ does all of that. Just love them. Till next time,
Amen.
you've got this because he's got you, always.
Friend, thank you so much for listening to this most recent episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So listen, the whole idea behind this mission is that when we endeavor to be brave with our lives, we need to do it together. Belonging is key. So if you resonated with the message from this episode, share it with a friend. Do it together. Thank you again, and never forget, you've got this because he's got you.